The mother of all Bitcoin supply shocks might have just started, and the road to $1 million Bitcoin might be shorter than you think. Because in the past 24 hours, we've seen Bitcoin hit a new all-time high, slicing through $123,000 this morning as $1.3 billion worth of shorts got absolutely wrecked. And at the same time that these shorts are getting wrecked, we just saw big institutions and ETFs buy 22 times the supply of Bitcoin. And one of the biggest buyers of Bitcoin, one of the biggest Bitcoin treasury companies, just made some really interesting comments on the national news that we have to listen to because it might give us some direction on where this bull run might be going.
Short sellers. You started to see that build up, and as they got blown out as Bitcoin ran, you get into this price discovery phase. And if you go back to November, we went from 70,000 to 90,000 in about 2 to 3 weeks, and 70,000 was a new all-time high. What we're watching now is we broke through that $110,000 range. That was the previous all-time high. I don't know if it goes to 140, but it sure is going to make a big move here because you are in a true price discovery phase.
And how much of this do you think at this point then gets driven by ETFs, or do you think it's really more going to be individuals buying the underlying asset?
Well, the reason why I call it the greatest show on Wall Street is everyone wants Bitcoin. Like, this is no longer a contrarian trade. This is a consensus trade now. And so you have the ETFs, you have the Bitcoin treasury companies, you have retail, you have sovereign wealth fund. Everybody wants Bitcoin.
Everybody wants Bitcoin. That's the big takeaway. But what's really interesting is who is driving this short squeeze? Who are these smart traders who are right now being forced to close their shorts, and how many more shorts do they have? Well, this is the interesting rabbit hole because there's a gentleman out there by the name of Gareth Soloway who's been shorting Bitcoin since it was $16,000 2 years ago. He was shorting at 16, at 21, at 24, at 35, at 36, at 45, at 48, at 60, at 65, at 69, at 75. And I can bet you our friend Gareth, he was shorting at $100,000. But I saw this clip just yesterday, right before the shorts got absolutely destroyed. And it looks as if Gareth Soloway is still shorting Bitcoin.
Last week, but we have this trend line that starts out back in 2017, connects right through the first high and the second high of 2021. And then literally in 2024, we tagged it right before that one pullback. And now we're just about to hit it again. So again, it's right around 115,000. So as a technician, that's going to be the level where I'm really focused in on to say, okay, can it break this? Can it break through this? If it does, 125 is very doable, even maybe higher than that. But that, again, is going to be the potential one level that, as a technician, you want to see whether or not it gets rejected at that point. The other thing I would just point out is, and again, I was just thinking about this today, is if you look at the pattern formation in 2021, and again, people aren't going to like to hear this, but just my job is to speculate, right? And just to look at this. But is this kind of that same sort of pattern right here replicating from 2021? And also you have the stock market at all-time highs like it was in 2021 at that point as well. So a couple things to kind of think about. Mike, why don't you give us your rundown of what you're thinking?
All right, I've got some thoughts there for you guys. First thought is that if anybody is calling themselves a technician twice in the same 30-second clip, run the other way, because as I tweeted here yesterday, Bitcoin does not care about your stupid lines that you draw on a chart. Bitcoin, there is 21 million coins, and right now we have sovereign wealth funds, ETFs, corporations, pension funds. They're all battling Bitcoin, and Bitcoin does not care if you're drawing some stupid, arbitrary lines on a chart. I know that could sound controversial and a little bit harsh to some people, but these bears need to get called out. These bears are wrecking people right now. And at the same time that we have quote unquote technicians trying to short Bitcoin, we've got central banks buying Bitcoin proxies, okay? We all saw recently the Czech Republic was investigating putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet as a strategic reserve asset. Christine Lagarde, head of the ECB, came out and she was pretty confident that the Czech Republic wouldn't do that after having some private conversations with them. Thought that was an interesting rabbit hole, but we can see here the Czech Republic bought about a couple $100 million worth of Coinbase. A little bit of a strange proxy to try to get exposure to Bitcoin to. But you can see very clearly, you can see why these big central banks want exposure to Bitcoin. Bitcoin just became the 8th biggest currency in the world. Have a look at those names on the list. There's some household names. We got the British pound, we got the Taiwanese dollar. There is some huge currencies there right now competing with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin continues doing what it's doing. It is slowly monetizing, and it's only a matter of time before it is the biggest asset in the world. We've even got the White House tweeting number go up memes. Now, again, let's get back to the story here, the short squeeze. What exactly is going on? Well, what we saw yesterday was $400 million worth of Bitcoin shorts absolutely eviscerated. I thought that was absolutely shocking, so to say, but I don't think it's nearly as shocking as the amount of short interest building up on not only Bitcoin, but also MicroStrategy. I don't know whether I want to dive into that rabbit hole straight away for you guys. I've got a little bit of a deep dive prepped for you, but you can see the shorts on MSTR, they are still growing by the day. These short sellers, they're not slowing down, and I just think it's a matter of time before they all get absolutely blown out of the water. McLovin here in the chat makes a great comment. Do not listen to Gareth. He was calling for $3,000 Bitcoin when it just dipped under $20,000 back in 2022. Now look at him. He's still shorting Bitcoin. These guys cannot admit they're wrong. They are a con man. I've been blocked by Gareth multiple times on Twitter for simply calling him out. Now, again, I show you the video of Gareth today, not to just be mean to people on the internet. I'm not about being mean to people on the internet, unless it will be a teachable lesson. The teachable lesson here is that Gareth's probably a great guy, but again, he's a trader. And I always encourage you guys to follow the incentives. These guys who are selling themselves as these technicians or these master traders, as you were seeing Gareth's bio on Twitter. I don't know if it's still there. I've been blocked for a while. But they're trying to sell you guys the dream. They will delete all of their tweets and delete all of their videos where they say that they've been, wrong. And they'll just leave up their predictions that have been right. And they're going to trade you guys $5,000 for a trading course. Like I continually say here on this channel, nobody knows where the price of Bitcoin is going in the short or the medium term. In the long term, the only thing that I'm pretty sure of is Bitcoin is going up and to the right forever, okay? And I think it's going much higher than most people think. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. What I want to be talking about today is why I think this bull run is just getting started. And I just think this little short squeeze that we're seeing right now between, $100,000 and $123,000 like we hit earlier today, I think this is just the beginning. And the beginning, I think it's going to be the beginning of a pretty bumpy 6 to 12 months. I don't think this bull run's even close to anywhere near a conclusion or a finale. I do think it is just taking off right now. I think we're in the early stages of a long, multi-year bull run. Will the cycles be different? I don't know, but what I think gives me a lot of optimism over the next 6 months is we can see Bitcoin is very correlated to global money supply. And we can see this has been aggressively ticking up recently. It's actually, I would love to show a little bit more of a global view here. So we have America, Europe, and China here on this chart. We have all the big central banks. We can see very clearly all of them are expanding their monetary bases. They're all printing money out of the wazoo, and Bitcoin is going to benefit the best from this money printing bonanza. It is only a matter of time. And what's interesting is there is still a ton of shorts. We can see here there's about $2 billion worth of shorts to be liquidated by around $130,000 per coin. So again, if we do nudge our ways up another $5,000 or $6,000 and we get close to 130K, we could see just another supply squeeze. I think this is super interesting. We are now beginning to see something interesting here. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF is already going absolutely bananas. And before I play you another clip that I've got for you, I might hold on to that one. I'll hold on to the funniest clip until later. I want to play a little bit more of this Pompliano clip on CNBC earlier today, because he gives us 3 reasons for why Bitcoin is pumping. And I think it could be insightful, so to say, to take a little bit of a look at this clip.
1,000 or 500,000, you got to cross 123 at some point. But what do you think is happening? What's driving it right this moment?
First of all, welcome to the greatest show on Wall Street. I think that Wall Street's full undivided attention now is on Bitcoin. And really, there's 3 things that drove this move. The first is that there's been record inflows into the ETFs. So last Thursday, 1.2 billion, second highest day. Those ETFs now collectively have over 140 billion. BlackRock's fund is now almost $90 billion in about a year. They went from not having a Bitcoin ETF to now they have a top 20 largest ETF in the world. So there's a lot of inflows there. Second thing is the options expired at the end of Q2. And so all that downward pressure on Bitcoin obviously goes away. That helps kind of like a beach ball getting put underneath the water, right? Obviously it can pop back up. And then the third thing is,
we'll cover the third thing in a moment, but let's break down what Pompliano just said here. So he mentioned the flows into the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. What I think is really interesting is we take a peep at the chart. Look at how quickly that thing's grown to be the most successful ETF in history. IBIT, 374 days, $80 billion worth of assets under management. And again, what's super interesting and very promising here is we can see the Bitcoin on exchanges continues to be absolutely drained. It's not slowing down. It's kind of insane when we think about it. I want to show you this new website I found recently. So this is showing us the breakdown of where the ETF assets are held. We can see very clearly here, IBIT is the clear winner and dominator of that space right now. They've got a massive, massive stranglehold or a monopoly on the market here. They are absolutely winning. They are winning very clearly. I don't think this is slowing down whatsoever. Now, what I think is interesting is this, we're seeing more and more inflows into these ETFs, and we are seeing more and more treasury companies continually added into the Bitcoin space. This is what I think is super interesting and very, very interesting. As the price is going up, we are seeing more and more and more and more treasury companies added. We can now see 148 public companies. That's this big green sliver. We can see, I've been tracking this number a lot. This number is very interesting to me. 25 new treasury companies in the past 30 days. It's not slowing down. We're seeing nearly 1 new public treasury putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet nearly every day. 25 in the past 30. This is only accelerating. This trend is not slowing down. That's what I think is very interesting. It's moving, and it's moving up and to the right. Forever, Laura. It is really not slowing down. That actually reminded me, moving up. I won't go down that rabbit hole just yet. What I will say is that it looks as if this bull run, I think, is going to be marked by the fact that the treasury companies are taking over everything. If we take a look at over here at how much Bitcoin these treasury companies hold, we can see the ETFs hold 1.4 million coins, public companies, 860,000. We could see a little bit of a congratulations to MicroStrategy here, led by the GigaChat himself, Michael Saylor. They've now eclipsed 600,000 Bitcoin under management. That is huge. That is only accelerating. This is, again, a lot of people have been saying, oh, Luke, stop talking about the supply shock. The price is not going up. The price is not going up. What's happening? The supply shock is meaningless. Again, Bitcoin's best days and Bitcoin's best performance, it's like it happens very quickly. When Bitcoin moves, it moves in a matter of days. This is why the traditional logic of, time in the market, beats time in the market. It's very important to understand. This here is one of my favorite charts in Bitcoin. I think it's very educational. I've showed it to you guys a couple of times before. In the purple here, we're going to be looking at the days and Bitcoin's best 10 days. Yeah, Bitcoin's best 10 days each year. You can see the returns in the purple bars. It's actually bigger than the gray bars next to it. So that means Bitcoin in its best 10 days, it actually gets more cumulative returns than the rest That's kind of insane to think about. Look at 2013, for example. In Bitcoin's best days combined, 10 best days, we saw 700% returns. So break that down. That means on average, the average day out of those 10 was a 70% return. That means Bitcoin's nearly doubling. And you saw 10 days where Bitcoin nearly doubled in 2013. This is why trading Bitcoin is a terrible idea. This is why listening to the experts is a terrible idea. Speaking about the experts, this is someone you should not listen to about Bitcoin. I want to play a clip from 2022 that I think is absolutely worth listening to because it's a pretty big podcast. We're going to be listening to a gentleman with more than 1 million followers say some interesting things about Bitcoin on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Asset. And now it's starting. No intrinsic value to this asset. And now it's starting to be priced appropriately. So it has a, what's Bitcoin at? 16,000? It has another 17,000 to go down.
Duh, really?
Yeah, there's no intrinsic value to this product.
And do you think that people have just inherently lost faith in the idea behind crypto because of FTX?
Well, it became an ideology, and whenever you invest based on an ideology, you're going to make some decisions that are a little divorced from math.
And what do you mean by ideology?
Well, the people who really like crypto are convinced that it's the currency of the future and that a decentralized ledger is the way to go, and that anything that is controlled by a government entity is by definition a negative, and if it's done by the private sector freely, it will be better. And that's just not how currency works. Currency is a method of exchange and a store of value. And for that, there has to be a degree of trust, and you have to have it managed in terms of volume. I mean, one of the craziest things about Bitcoin is that there will never be more than X number of units of Bitcoin. Well, by default, that means it can't be used for trade, because the whole idea of economic activity is that there's expansion, which means you need more currency to lubricate and manage that expansion. If currency is locked in at a specific number, you get monetary inflation, and that is one of the fastest ways to destroy an economic model.
So because of the lack of Bitcoin, because there's a certain controlled number, the only thing that can happen is Bitcoin becomes more expensive.
Right. And that means that the people who hold it are the ones that make the money, but everyone else suffers? I'm sorry, that's not viable. The alternative is you have some private dude out there who generates the coins on a whim. How is that different from the monetary reserve or the monetary authorities that we have at the Federal Reserve, except for the point that there's no accountability? No.
All right. So since that interview has aged like milk on a hot summer's day, I don't think we should be listening to Peter Zeihan. Again, he said that when Bitcoin was at $16,000 a coin. Today, we're about $106,000 higher. So Bitcoin did not, in fact, go down by $17,000. We're up by nearly $117,000, which is pretty insane. And this is, again, why you should not be trusting the experts. The experts don't have any idea what they're talking about. They don't understand money. They don't understand Bitcoin. They don't understand economics. Peter Zeihan is your typical Keynesian economist. Again, nothing against Peter. I've learned a lot from him for his geopolitical talks, let's just say that. But again, he just does not understand Bitcoin. So again, this is the big warning for this bull run. Do not listen to anyone who masquerades himself as an expert. Speaking about that, this could be a great little segue into talking about something that is my favorite topic in Bitcoin. It is the Bitcoin power law. Speaking of experts, please do not trade your Bitcoin just because you see some lines on a chart. I think a lot of people are going to be trading Bitcoin based upon some of these silly lines on a chart that they see because they hear people speaking very confidently, knowing exactly where the price of Bitcoin is going to go because of maths and science. Again, like Peter Zeihan, confidence and perceived intellect and what is the name for somebody with a lot of credentials? Credentials don't mean squat in this world, okay? Bitcoin does not care about your stupid lines on a chart like we showed you earlier with Gareth Soloway, and Bitcoin does not care about your stupid credentials that you got from an outdated educational institution. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Nobody knows how Bitcoin is going to perform, but I would just encourage you guys against selling your Bitcoin just because it hits some funny line on a chart. And I really hope some people do not sell Bitcoin because of some funny lines on a chart. Again, I think this bull run is going to be absolutely huge. I think it's going to be bigger than most people could ever imagine in their life. I think we are going to I think we're going to be moving into a market where it becomes more and more unpredictable to know where the price of Bitcoin is going to go. I think the big boys like BlackRock, the central banks, I think they've all got their bags packed. And who knows where the price of Bitcoin could go when they really let this thing fly. Again, I don't think we've seen a real bull run since 2020. 2017. Again, I think the 2020, 2021 bull run wasn't even a real bull run. Bitcoin kind of got attacked, price got suppressed, China banned Bitcoin mining, Tesla and Elon Musk attacked Bitcoin, you know, the big old ESG attack on Bitcoin, proof of work mining was attacked, World Economic Forum, BlackRock, everybody came in against Bitcoin. I think 2017 was the last bull run we had. I've done some videos recently where we've crunched some numbers showing you that, hey, if Bitcoin just repeats what it did in 2017, we're looking at $2 million Bitcoin by March 2026. I know that sounds crazy, but just think about it. Bitcoin 20x in 2017. Went from 1,000 to 20,000 in 9 months. If it did the same thing today, we're looking at more than a $2 million Bitcoin in 9 months' time. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying mentally prepare yourself for Bitcoin to just do the same thing it's done before in 2017. And again, I genuinely think the catalysts today in 2024 are just as big, if not bigger, than what we saw in 2017, because that was just a retail-led bull run. Just retail drove Bitcoin from 1,000 to 20,000. Now we've got the big money involved and buying and tapping into the Bitcoin market that we do need to be involved to give Bitcoin another 20x. Yes, Bitcoin's a much bigger market cap. I understand that argument. Oh, the law of large numbers. Bitcoin's so much bigger now. So we do need more capital to move Bitcoin. That is true. But again, what people forget is the supply side of the equation. There is a lot less supply available for sale today in 2025 than there was in 2017. Okay, I will take one final look at the number of Bitcoin on exchanges and kind of walk you through how this trend changed that kind of began in 2020 has changed the Bitcoin multiplier effect and how it has kind of changed the numbers and the bull market multipliers. But again, I think before we do that, again, final words of encouragement for this bull run. Do not sell Bitcoin too early. Do not make mistakes. Be really cautious about your privacy. If you got Bitcoin in self-custody and you have the urge to sell Bitcoin because it pops up to $150,000 tomorrow, I'll just remind you, you don't need to do that. You don't need to necessarily take the tax hit. Again, nothing you hear here is financial advice. But what I will say, something I'm doing personally, and I'm allowed to talk about that, is I'll be borrowing against my Bitcoin this bull run. I will say that. And again, I found a good platform for you guys to do that on. Okay. Again, if you want to use a peer-to-peer Bitcoin lending platform to actually spend some of your Bitcoin profits, I'd recommend you check out FIREFISH. They're a Bitcoin peer-to-peer lending platform. They've processed 2,000 Bitcoin worth of loans. They got tens of thousands of users. They're fully backed. They use peer-to-peer lending markets. They use multi-signature vaults. And best of all, they don't take custody of your Bitcoin. This is why I endorse FIREFISH. I think they're a great product. I use them myself. I do have a video coming up showing you guys that process. So stay tuned for that. If you want to go and make a loan in the meantime, before you see that video, you can actually use a promo code Luke, and that'll get you 30% off your first transaction with FIREFISH. So again, just start thinking about how you're going to react this bull run, because things are going to get wild. I think when we do see this number of Bitcoin on exchanges hit zero, things are going to get very, very, very interesting. I think the bull run is just gonna, I think it's gonna melt some faces, because as I'm about to show you, we actually did not have this in 2017. We did not have this setup in 2017 with Bitcoin leaving the exchanges. This is, again, my biggest gripe with the power law, because it's taking data from 2011, 2016, 2017, and we're supposed to be extrapolating this data forward. Again, what's the first principle of economics? Supply and demand. We're right now living in a world where there's just simply less supply, and a completely different demand side equation for the world. I mean, look at the number of Bitcoin leaving the exchanges today. The number of Bitcoin on exchanges is straight up evaporating. And I don't think we should be using that data pre-2020 for the post-2020 world that we are living in. I think we're living in a different world. I think your time to accumulate Bitcoin could be running out here. Again, if you are looking for somewhere to buy your Bitcoin, check out the Bitcoin Well, just like FIREFISH. They are a fully backed Bitcoin platform that does not take custody of your keys. Again, self-custody is the most important thing in Bitcoin. And I love the Bitcoin Well and FIREFISH for this because they don't take custody of your Bitcoin. So if you're looking for somewhere to buy your Bitcoin, a place that'll even reward you in Bitcoin for buying your Bitcoin there, check out the Bitcoin Well. And once you bought your Bitcoin from an exchange, I hope you've put it into your own custody. And when you do, go and back up your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words on titanium. You can get these really cool titanium plates from Stampseed that I endorse for you guys. You guys can also get 15% off anything you want to buy from Stampseed with a promo code Luke15. So everything you need to know for all the show partners will be linked down below that I hope these partners will look after you this bull run. There's a reason why I partner with the people I do, and that's because I think a lot of people are going to get wrecked this bull run. Okay, there's a reason why the Bitcoin maximalists weren't endorsing FTX, BlockFi, and Celsius and all of these other scams in 2022, despite it being very profitable to do so, because they're scammy products. So again, stay safe out there, guys. There's 859 of you guys on this live stream. Welcome to wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's Twitter, Rumble, or YouTube. I want to take a peep at some questions here, and I'm also going to take a little bit of a peep in here on the price of Bitcoin. I want to see where we're at. I want to see, okay, so Bitcoin right now, we're about $120,000 a coin. Again, we've had a great run here, guys. I will say, look, just be careful out there. If you're new to Bitcoin, dollar cost average your way into Bitcoin. I encourage you guys to learn what you own. Nothing goes up in a straight line. You can see Bitcoin typically has these 20 or 30% corrections all throughout a bull run. Nothing goes up in a straight line. Bitcoin's kind of going up in a straight line from $79,000 to $124,000 this morning in a straight line. Who knows when Bitcoin will have a rest, but we'll probably have a rest at some stage. I'll just encourage you guys, learn about Bitcoin. Continue to stack Bitcoin. Only invest into Bitcoin if you're comfortable riding it through the volatility. Again, don't put your life savings into Bitcoin if you're not comfortable with it having a 20% correction tomorrow, because it could certainly happen. Could certainly happen. I will say that. Nobody knows where Bitcoin is going, except in the long run, I think it's going much, 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 much higher. And it's not just me who thinks that. Stat-wise, my man, one of my favorites here, who knows where we're going to go up. Again, I don't know. I'm just saying, do not invest your life savings in Bitcoin tomorrow because you're seeing the number go up aggressively if you can't handle a 20% drawdown tomorrow. That's all I am saying. I don't know where the price is going. I have absolutely no idea. If you guys have enjoyed this little bullish news update, we would appreciate a smashing of the like button. And I will remind you guys, got some big interviews coming this week, actually, that I filmed in the BTC Prague conference. I'm not going to give away who I interviewed, but I will say that if you're not subscribed, you might miss it. So again, I'll encourage you guys to check out that subscribe button down below if you want to be notified for when those interviews drop. And with all that said, I will say thank you so much to everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this one, this little short and sharp little update on the Bitcoin news, I did another one a couple of days ago. I'm going to put a link to that video somewhere around there. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.